Well, hi everybody. I'm John Ritland. This is my review of WWE NXT UK Takeover Blackpool 2. That is a mouthful of a title. I also want to get right out of the way that I have not watched the weekly NXT UK brand in a long time. Pretty much since before Takeover Cardiff. The main reason for that is I simply don't have time. However, I do keep up with highlights and YouTube clips and stuff like that, and I'm up on all these storylines. Was this show good? Was this show bad? It was good. It did have some points where I was like, okay, they're just really trying to stretch for time here. So I'm going to get to the good points, the bad points, and all that stuff here. That's the whole point of a review, so thank you guys for tuning in. And I do want to say this much about the pre-show. I like this Andy Shepherd guy. I hope he's on more of the pre-shows and maybe even have him do some interviews and maybe have him do commentary at some point. He seems to have a really good knowledge of wrestling. I'm not that familiar with him, but he impressed me. So, we have Tom Phillips and Nigel Mcguinness on commentary, and they did a great job. I'm really disappointed that Phillips is on NXT UK, nothing against the brand specifically, but I thought Phillips did a great job on SmackDown and should be on one of the main brands, but you know what? He seems to be motivated here, and Nigel, just great. As always, we start off with Trent 7 versus Eddie Dennis. The recently returned Eddie Dennis, I understand he was out with a pectoral injury for like about 8 months. You can tell that this match didn't have a ton going into it, only because this was the weakest of the card. Now that doesn't mean it was necessarily bad, but there were some awkward exchanges, and it just seemed like they didn't really find the right chemistry. There were times where they would, and then they would completely lose it. This could have easily been on the pre-show. All due respect to Trent Seven, and I think Eddie Dennis is a very, very good talent, but honestly, this match could have just been on the pre-show, and I don't think it would have been a miss. I did like the Trent 7 Army chant. Did have a quick start. Trent nearly got the 3 count very, very quickly. Eddie does slow it down. At one point, Trent hitting 2 Snapdragons, 1 in the ring, 1 outside the ring. There was an exposed turnbuckle spot. And Eddie Dennis hitting the border toss very well. They call it the Razor Ramon, or the Razor's Edge, rather, from Razor Ramon, but I call it the border toss because Hernandez used to do it. And he throws him outside right onto a guy. I hope everybody's okay because that looked brutal. And then he hits the next stop driver. I believe that's what they called it. 1, 2, 3. Not bad, but not that great. We then get to Toni Storm versus Piper Niven versus Kaylee Ray. 3-way women's match for the NXT UK Women's Championship. I love this. I thought this was great. I think Toni Storm's great. I think Kaylee Ray lives up to every bit of the reputation she has earned. And Piper Niven is fantastic. I am so happy that Piper Niven has seemingly recovered from her bout with Bell's palsy, because that, if you don't follow her on social media, you might be unaware. I think it was a few weeks ago, a month ago, something like that. It was unfortunate. It was horrible, because anybody that knows anything about that illness, that condition, it can be debilitating depending on how well you recover from it. And she thankfully has recovered from it, and hopefully everybody that is dealing with it is doing it in the best way possible, as is very debilitating depending on the level of, the level of severity that you get it with. But anyway, this was good stuff. These women tore it up. They brought the crowd right on their goddamn feet, and definitely made up for the first match. Again, all due respect to the two guys. I love how Toni attacked immediately. It was an immediate brawl. It was all about Toni's friendship with Piper Niven, and Kaylee Ray went and get them to go at each other, and then Kaylee Ray could sneak in the win. And this was just great stuff. There were some great strikes, some very nice counters. I really loved, the flow of everything, where everybody break up a pinfall, typical 3-way stuff, but these women made it work really well. At one point, Kaylee Ray grabbing a black chair. Of course, Tessa Blanchard would have not been happy to grab that black chair. That's right, I was going to work in one of those comments, because, oh boy, is that a whole nother controversy. But we get dives, we get a Mamma Mia chant after Kaylee Ray had done a dive to the outside that just wiped everybody out. Well, the 2 women, not the referee. He was in the ring, thankfully. But a great Mamma Mia chant. Morrow's impact felt worldwide. Piper doing a destroyer. Now, that's impressive. I mean, I don't care who you are. That is goddamn impressive. Yes, there's a few too many people doing the Canadian destroyer, but just agility, power, everything. She displays it perfectly. This was well done. Storm 0 for 2. Oh, no. Toni gets a splash, and then Kaylee Ray gets a super kick in and covers Piper Niven. 1, 2, 3. There was a lot of really good stuff in this match. Encourage you guys to check this out. I have already put this on my list of favorite matches of the year, and I know we're only a couple weeks in, but I'm writing down some matches so I don't forget, because I watch a lot of goddamn wrestling. a lot of wrestling. But this really made up for the first match. Really enjoyed this. All these women really tore it up. And the women's division in NXT UK is really top notch. Great talent from top to bottom. Even the ones that still, need to rise up, get more experience on TV, they are doing well. I'm really impressed with what the NXT UK women are doing. And so Kaylee Ray celebrates. This was the right call, by the way. Kaylee Ray did not need to be losing a championship. I'm amazed Tony didn't take the pin. Maybe it's because she's going to take the pin against Rhea Ripley at, when Worlds Collide. Cool. A bit odd because I think Tony's obviously going to be going to the American NXT brand sooner than later. Not saying they want to gut NXT UK, but it was a bit odd. But anyway, good match. And then we go to Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin, and all based around the fact that these guys faced off in the UK tournament before. And great, a combination of youth with just some tremendous power and tremendous ability. It's scary to think of just how young Bate and Devlin both are. And they did some really good exchanges here. We had Big Strong Boy, not Big Dong Boy chants. I know that one of my watchers was, one of my viewers was thinking that. You know who you are. I'm not going to call you out by name, though. Nice strikes and counters. 1 point, Tyler goes for like a splash off the ropes. And my God, just Devlin timing it perfectly with those knees. Just like almost a code breaker variation out of nowhere. That was really good stuff. Love that spot. Airplane spin by Bate, where he just seemingly held up Devlin forever, just spinning him and spinning him and spinning him and spinning him and everything, and just ragdolling and manhandling his man right there. And I'm saying this for the one Tyler Bate fan that I know is watching this, is just going to love how I'm wording this. And I do stuff for the fans, and also it was just really, really good stuff to see. And then we get near falls, we get, more strikes here. We get an avalanche Spanish fly from Jordan Devlin, and then he hits his finisher 1, 2, nope. We get the Tyler Driver 97, 1, 2, kick out. And then he hits a twisting corkscrew variation spiral tap, 1, 2, 3. Tyler Bate wins. Bit surprised, honestly. Would have thought Devlin would have gotten the victory here. He celebrates, huge reaction. Really, the crowd was even split with these guys. Like, there were some cheers for Devlin because it's hard not to appreciate how good he is. But he's so goddamn good at being a heel, you can't help but boo him. Now here comes the controversy. Imperium, which was Eichner and Bartel, Gallus, Wolfgang, and Joe Coffey. Mark Coffey. I accidentally wrote down Joe Coffey. And then we also had Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews and Drake and Gibson, not the Grizzled Hung veterans, but the Grizzled Young veterans. I have a weird way of wording things on my show. It is the 4-way match for the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. It's a ladder match. This match went on too long, and this match got to the point where it was just spots for the sake of spots. It's not these guys didn't work hard, and I hope every single one of them is okay. They took some hard bumps. Those wooden ladders broke. I mean, they were obviously wooden ladders. You could fucking tell they were wooden ladders, especially with how one didn't even bend, it just splintered. Granted, I guess that's the best way to make it safe, but still splinters. That would kind of hurt quite a bit. Anyway, it was a good match for a while. There were some insane spots, but then it just got to the point where it's like, okay, now it's overkill. I know that may sound like I'm, being a little harsh on these guys. And I'm not being harsh on these guys. I give them all the credit in the world. And once again, I hope that they are okay. But we had flippy shit during this, mainly from Morgan and Andrews. I mean, obviously we'd have to be. Eichner did, however, do a great moonsault while I believe it was one of Morgan or Andrews was on the ladder, and get lots of ladder falls. Hopefully nothing bad, because some of these bumps look kind of brutal. We got table spots, and Wolfgang just getting driven through a table as Andrews and Webster fall. Do like this dual dive thing where they hold on to each other. And I swear to God, they must have suffered some kind of injury, something, at least a stinger, because they were doing too much of the convulsion thing to make it to where it wasn't just them selling. That looked pretty brutal, but they did have a cool kendo stick spot where Mark Andrews went nuts. It's just the problem is again, this went on a little bit too. Now it was only a 2.5 hour show, and if you didn't watch pre-show, you don't need to watch pre-show, by the way, because it was just people talking. There was no match on it. It was good, but overkill. Again, Gallus ends up winning, ends up retaining the tag team championships. Cool, that was the right call. There was no reason for Gallus to lose here. Plus Imperium. I mean, Imperium winning the championship wouldn't have been bad, but I get why they kept them on Gallus. Probably just as well since Morgan and Webster had won at Cardiff in a pretty damn good three-way tag title match. But this, once again, just a little bit overkill. Just in my opinion. Good match, went on a little long. Here's a match that I tried to like more than I did. I still liked it, but it was Walter versus Joe Coffey, NXT UK Championship. Joe Coffey is a very good wrestler. He is a very good striker. He has a really, solid, just grizzled look about him and everything, that raw bone look. Same with Walter. I didn't give two shits about Joe Coffey in this match. He had some great moves, some great strikes, and did have Walter on the defense a few times. I did not care as much as I think they wanted me to. Now, maybe that's just because, as much as I am a fan of the British style, sometimes it just doesn't appeal to me. This is the least of Walter's big matches that I have seen since he came to NXT UK. Of all the takeover matches he had, that match he had against Pete Dunne was great. That match he had against Tyler Bate was quite goddamn good. Let's not even talk about what they did with him at Survivor Series. It was bullshit. But this had its moments, but I don't think anybody bought Joe Coffey getting the victory. And sometimes that's not the point, but you got to make people believe. There were people that actually believed that Tyler Bate was going to win, and I was hoping he would win, at Cardiff, but he didn't. And that match just was better. This had good strikes in it. There was a chop battle. I wonder who won that. Why would you try to battle Walter as far as chops? There was a ref bump at one point because Walter tried for the drop kick and Coffey got out of the way. And I hope the ref is okay, because that looked pretty brutal. As safe of a worker as Walter is, that looked pretty brutal. And then we get Alexander Wolf and Dragunov. I'm not even going to attempt to say Dragunov's first name because I always screw it up. Ilya, I think. They get in. They've had their wars, and NXT UK, they've had their feud going. They get in and they have some moments, and then Dragunov gets taken out with a clothesline from Walter. Coffey's knee gets jacked at one point because Dragunov, who has aligned with Gallus, showing some allegiances, takes out Wolf, and then Coffey gets kind of caught up in the corner and everything and tweaks his knee. Now, I hope it was just just a kayfabe tweak and not like an actual legit one, because it did look kind of bad. He was doing a great job of selling it if it wasn't. We get a powerbomb on the apron by Walter, the hardest part of the ring. We get a German suplex off the ropes by Coffey, basically on one leg. Splash by Walter for two, and then a powerbomb and a variation of a sleeper. And it was weird. It was weird though, because the ref was like, "Oh, Coffey's not responding. I'll call for the bell." And then as soon as he turns around, Coffey starts tapping, and the ref would call for the bell anyway. So that was a bit odd. But then you get Walter celebrating. We get all of Imperium out there, because Wolf came back out there after battling Dragunov to the back. And then we get Eichner and Bartel, but they're obviously beat up from the ladder match. And then suddenly, the Undisputed Era, led by Adam Cole, decide to attack to hype up the whole Worlds Collide thing. They take out the rest of Imperium. We have Cole and Walter facing off, and then all four of them kind of, just maul Walter and everything. And they celebrate, and, because the Undisputed Era is standing tall, and that's really it. I know it's a bit shorter than a lot of reviews that I usually do for big events and everything, takeovers and all that stuff, but outside of like a few matches, it's not that this was a bad show at all. I do not want to take anything away from these guys, but the women's match to me stood out more than anything else that was on this show. Devlin and Bate was good. I would say Walter and Coffey was pretty good. The ladder match was good, but again, just went on too long, got to be overkill, so B. I'm going to say B. Was going to go B-, but I decided B. The women did really, I think, elevate just half a grade up, and that's my personal opinion. Leave your thoughts in the comments, or maybe you pull up there. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and I'll see you soon.